So we have to have this long-term perspective. We certainly don't want to compromise anything at the expense of Ukraine. And in the meantime, we have to pass strong messages. And we were also pushing very hard for the Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Guterres, to go to Russia. It took a kind of long time to have him going there. He went there only early April, I think. Just because the Russians didn't want him to come, but we also insisted with other Security Council members that he should go there. As again frustrating and probably and as unfruitful it was, but it was important, and that's why we also considered that it is important to keep a channel of communication open with Mr. Putin.
Apologies to members, but just on that specific point, but you might tie it into the response rather than coming back to me, because it might be require a wee bit of time. President Macron's commentary around a resolution needs to be found without humiliating Russia. You might just keep that in mind when you're answering. Maybe
yes.
But I was going to ask that. Were you going to ask? Yeah. Right, okay, I'll tell you.
You've asked it now.
Well, is there anything you want to add?
That's all I know. I'd like commentary on that. Okay. Does it mean that, you know, the Crimea is de facto going to remain Russian, because it was Russian until 1954. Are we talking about requiring Russia to evacuate all of the eastern region that it is now controlling? I mean, is that what humiliation involves? I mean, I'm not being in any way dismissive of what's being said, but I mean, if we're going to have a pragmatic solution and we're going to say that Putin is not to be humiliated, what does that imply?
Yes.
No. What's the agreement of Lisa? Is it okay, Lisa, if the ambassador takes that question, and you can give out to Senator McDougall afterwards for skipping the queue there, but he was.
Thank you, Senator. No, and Chairman, I'm very glad to answer this question, which indeed is very important and which has been subject to many comments in the press, including here in Ireland. I think when the President said this, it was in reaction to many remarks, comments made, in particular in the United States, where 3 weeks ago or a month ago, when things were looking a little bit better for the Ukrainian army as they do now, there was the kind of sense that a victory for Ukraine was within reach pretty soon, and that one should teach Russia a lesson so that Russia shouldn't be tempted anytime soon to cross the line again, and that we should teach them a lesson once and for good. So you had some very high-level U.S. decision makers making such remarks, and we believe, and we still believe, that these remarks are not just slightly dangerous, but that this thinking of teaching Russia a lesson is dangerous, not because we would believe that what they've done over the last 6 months is permissible, admissible, but just because history on the European continent over the last, centuries, and certainly over the last 100 years, has taught us very painfully that if you teach a country a lesson because he has indeed invaded their neighbor, it bounced back very, very strongly a generation later. Just look at the First World War in this respect. And in the Franco-German context I know well, just look at, we had a war in 1870, where the Germans, humiliated us, and we fought very hard to recuperate one of the provinces we had left, and we had seized, etc. So this idea of teaching your neighbor a lesson is, in our view, very dangerous. And so, as much as we are in favor and supporting sanctions, and as much as we strongly consider again that, yes, the full territorial integrity of Ukraine should be restored, including Crimea, certainly, and by the way, in Georgia also, with the two provinces in Georgia, Abkhazia and South Ossetia, and as much we consider that, again, this is Ukraine, should remain Ukraine, or should go back to Ukraine. At the same time, we believe that it is dangerous, and by the way, he was speaking about Russia, not Mr. Putin. It is dangerous to engage in a narrative and ultimately in a strategy which objective would be to humiliate a country, because then we would, again, in one generation time, pay very, very dear, strong consequences. So, yes, we have to defeat Russia. Yes, we want Ukraine to win. Yes, we have to put all efforts we can for this objective of winning this war. Letting Ukraine win this war, and see Russia losing it, but with no humiliation.
Okay, thanks, Ambassador. So Senator Lisa Chambers, followed by Deputy Brenda.